Well, this is Ben Clothier. And for those of you who do not know, I am deaf, so I'm speaking to you through a sign language interpreter who's translating for me. Tonight, we will be talking about ORM and code gen, so object-relational mappers and code gen. So tonight, we're hopefully going to be offering some new suggestions and ideas for writing your codes, specifically codes regarding interface between Access and SPL. If something is unclear, then please do feel free to ask questions and ask me what that was about. We have screen sharing, and for example, just one moment. We could be seeing a lot of different programs that we'll have access for, and I will be showing and writing SPL responses, and at the same time I will have, one moment. I will string a string of captions also, and so hopefully this will work successfully and we'll be able to have notes, and you'll see one moment I'm going to run these questions. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one. Just a minute. Okay, that seems like it's working. It's caught 4 out of the 2, so 2 times 2 is 4. And so you'll see as you go along, you'll see what this does. For larger projects, it can reveal some of the problems, and we want to check out, so how do we find out if the code itself, by reading the code, if it's correct? We'll see if the code is running smoothly, if we've made errors, and check on the runtime. I can check to see if my parameters that I've entered are wrong. If I put IN, it was supposed to be ID, and I didn't know at the time because of the way it was run. So for example, if I'm thinking of a program and it may say, you know, okay, there's just 50 different forms with a lot of different buttons that maybe, you know, call various, call for various procedures and functions. And I'm thinking, okay, how do I make this accessible, and how do I convert the code to meet my needs? So this has a procedure. This has 2 parameters in here. So for example, if I have a switch of maybe requiring more functions or more multipliers, it's flexible. I can add a second parameter. And the modifications are there. And then running, looks like that worked. And so now this is with the same code, and I can click run to see how test it out, see if it works. It should fail. Right, so that meets my expectations. It shows the errors, it shows the parameters in here, and the only way for me to know is by run it. Okay, now, so on this line, well, let me back up. I see on here, Steve has a comment about, wait a minute, I'm lost. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. As I said, this is Ben talking. You're at, yes, I see the time stamp on here. Really, this is talking about ORM. Let me start going back. When we're writing code, and we notice that we're imagining a situation, there's a problem in the code, how can we bring this out in the ORM? One moment. No. No, no, this didn't start hours ago. That's a good question. So ORM, let me expand. So what I'm talking about here, again, is the Object-Relational Mapper. And in other languages, they would have systems for this ORM, Object Relational Mapper, so such as they might use what is called entity framework, or different programs have different languages and they would use their own ORM. Here in this, this is what I've been using, and this is what I've created with VBA, and yes, it's, yes. So saving the process, right, so function, this is discussing the function, and I will show you, I'm going to start with, this is what I tend to, when I imagine a problem, and I'm going to use this language, if there's no way to verify the code in the language. And so, one moment, yeah, I see. Okay, so this has errors in it, and I'm going to show you some examples and how we can tweak it. And okay, so imagine the situation. I'm just saying, for example, if we are talking about making this ORM code, instead of writing a new procedure, what we can do is close this program and start over here and make, let me bring this up. In Tools, this is where we can build and start to build some of our functions. So I am clicking over here on the SPL, and here are where the codes are that we can make to code into our ORM. And so I will write this ORM into the code. And I need to set a link to the SQL generator. I'm using AdventureWorks, the AdventureWorks database for our example here. So when I bring up the different schema that we can choose from to generate all the codes for our procedure and for our functions, I'm going to show you what some of ours look like in this database. So if you look, we have several different, maybe 10, I guess, 10 different procedures in here. 2 schema. One is in DBO, and the other is in human resources. Three saving procedures also are storage procedures. And so let's see. Yes, and we also have a listing of functions. So here are the different functions that I want to show you in VBA. Okay, so what we do when I'm writing code that automatically establishes VBA function equivalent to each storage function. So I'm going to make one now. First, I'm going to show two schema the VBO has. Here they are. I'm going to call these, I'm going to just call them templates. The reason why is because really each schema requires its own module, because to avoid conflict with the ability to save in the storage procedure, so there's really 2 schemas. And so we can imagine scenarios and do what I'm calling, hold on one moment, DB. So choose a schema. And here it's parameterized. I can generate 2 codes with DBO, and then the other one having, oh, yeah, let me go back right there. So now I've finalized that. And so I have these 2 options here for using ADO and the other one for string language generation. To find one that better matches with the DBO, so a better fit, use parameters that if I'd rather this code language to be generated this way. Okay, oh, I see. So I'm assuming so I will pull all the metadata and then write the code that will generate VBA functions. And then it will call each and store the procedure. Let me show you this process. So if I see there are 4 modules, 1 for each schema, and the others for each type of line code. If you see in the drop-down, we have the different names of the functions and the storage that we can set. So that means you can click and choose the various language options that we have. The VBA language, you can research that in here. Okay, so now I'm going to create a new function. Instead of what I just showed you, so I'm putting the module name in, ODBO. Let's see. Oh. And the drop-down has all of the functions named in there with yes. Let's see. Yeah, so you'll use the multiply. Yes, you'll see that we have all of the parameters that fit with this with the storage procedures, and so we have three parameters. There's two more that I'm going to discuss later. So instead of writing a string, you don't always have to put the code I'm reading that. What I tend to do with that parameter is what I call a reference. So when somebody tells me I have a reference and I need to have a variable, here's the command. Okay. So there we have a way for this VBA to meet the needs. And so now, let me go ahead and see the results of that. And so I'm going to try to compile. Okay. All right, there, that's better. Now that's correct. Okay. Yeah, I see. So we are running to see if this works. Yeah. Okay, yeah, now I know why. All right, I forgot to call and set the value. Okay, so there we go. And so now we've got 4, yes. And so the important thing is that we want to see if we can catch all of the adjustments that we've made in the server. If we can see all of that in the code will warn us that it's behind and needs to catch up. And so we go ahead and test. Now let's see. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more new parameter. All right, so I added this. And the change has been made. Now I've got 4 parameters, and I need to go ahead and catch this up for the code to generate. And then we'll open, build and run again. First, I'm going to close this file. Then update VBA modules. All right. Now I'm going to connect with the server. It's important that we have the same module name. They have to be exactly the same, or it'll cover and rewrite the same module with, you know, the new adjustments that we just put in SQL Server. So I'm going to check and see if it complies. Let me see what this does. Let's test it. All right, so now I've got this error, and one big improvement that we had from before was in the language, in the interface that we used to use, you could not check. You only had to you could only run the code. To find the errors, we had no run code function, so you could only go through and catch it afterwards. Now it warns you as you enter the parameter. And now we've got it working. And so let's go back and test to see if it runs. And it worked. So we've got number 4 functioning. And so that's the idea with ORM and the code generator, to help us make sure that we truly have this running and that our code is dependent on the SPL, that the storage procedures functions, and all of those are working together, and that they are not running on old code that are not compatible with our adjustments. So they're compatible with SPL. So will the demonstration provide, for example, when we look this over and we're playing with it and we think, okay, well, we've got these variables, we've got these questions in here. Any questions so far? Oh. All right, so I apologize when I know some of you might feel a bit overwhelmed with what I just showed you. Hopefully you'll be able to benefit from it. And let me, when I find that runtime error, I have to convert everything to become approved and compile the time errors, and that's the important thing. And so, okay. All right, have a great night, everybody.